Hey guys, welcome back to Seller Sessions. We're just waiting on Ash Thompson. Of course, Lee Rand Hirschkorn is here. We are going to be covering detoxing with your technology effectively. So yeah, we're going to go. We're waiting on Ash to arrive at the moment. I've got a little error here, so I'm just going to try and fix that. What has the error gone on there? That's scheduled for here. Save the changes. It's not
going to be covering detoxing.
Detoxing while on social media.
Whilst on social media. There we go. How's your week been, Lee Rand? All good?
It's been good. It's been really good, and the weather's getting better in New York, so getting outside a little bit, which is really nice. Planning to do some of that today.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a good week.
Cool. I'm just going to share this to the groups, and we'll start saying hello to people as they arrive in. Done. Let's go share there. Ash is here. Here he is.
Hey guys.
You're looking rather blue, Ash.
Rather what?
Blue.
Blue.
Yes. The colour of the camera and stuff. You're looking blue. Is it the shadow coming down?
Yeah, just the shadow.
Back. Yeah.
Look at this. This is the balcony at the minute.
Where are you?
I'm in Portugal at the minute.
Oh, that looks terrible. I bet you gutted.
Awful. Stranded out here. I am in the middle of nowhere.
You do realise we're live, yeah? So welcome, Ash Thompson. Do you want to give the audience a little bit of background on yourself, my friend?
Sure. Yeah, I would say been selling, power seller, I guess, been selling on Amazon for 6 years. Have a few companies on Amazon, and just in a hyper growth mode. We've got a team of 42 people now, and things are just getting bigger and bigger. I'm just loving riding Jeff Bezos's wave.
Excellent. So can we ask, I mean, last time we done the in-depth with you, it was called the Road to 250 million. That was your target back then. What are we looking at end of year, bearing in mind COVID and everything else? What are you looking year end?
The goal at the minute for this year is 100
Okay.
mil.
Yeah. And
so, yeah.
Are you close to your goal?
It's gonna be very tight. We're gonna have to pull off all of the new product stuff.
Yeah.
Most of the new product stuff that we have in the pipeline, but I am optimistic that we'll be able to get there. But if not, it should get very close.
Excellent. Let's say some hellos here. Roger says, I throw in the odd 18-hour PC stint, especially if there's a problem that needs fixing or a big launch. It's going to be pretty bad for me. Yes, we'll be tuning in. Thanks. Tiffany says, this will be interesting. EMFs affect me for sure. Let's have a look who. Yao's joined us. Tiff's here. Lawrence is here as well. Okay. Who wants to kick off? Lee Rand, I mean, it was your idea to do this show. You got a perspective, but me and Ash have gone way down the rabbit hole with EMFs and stuff like that. So do you want to talk about digital detox first?
Well, yeah. So, you can call it a digital detox, or you can also call it a dopamine detox, right? Because,
yes.
Everything that we do online, or a lot of the stuff that we do online, especially social media driven by, Facebook and Instagram and a lot of what we do is designed by companies who, have some of the smartest people in the world, PhDs and engineers who are programming social media to continuously give you that dopamine hit for your brain to get you hooked to stay there. Because the more time you spend on Facebook, the more money Facebook makes because the more ads they can serve you and you're staying on. So it's to their best interest, but it might not be to your best interest. And so one of the things that I've done now twice over the last 2 weeks has been a 48-hour period of no electronics at all, no computer, no phone, no TV, nothing. And then I just did that again this weekend, Friday night to last night, another 24-hour period of no phone, no computer, nothing, not even checking to it. And I'm probably as addicted or more addicted than anybody that I know. Like when I show people my like average day, kind of like, on your screen time on my iPhone, my numbers are like 11 hours, 12 hours, like crazy. And like other people I showed to, like, hey, my times are bad. Like I have 5 hours, and I'm like, look at
That's
this.
a dream for most. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm as, addicted, which is why it's probably even more so important for me to try to get off that. It's and even outside of just like a detox, it's the reason for the detox is so that you have more control in other areas, right? When I'm having dinner with my family, when I'm having conversation with somebody, when I'm on a Zoom like this, or when I'm on a StreamYard like this on Facebook, am I 100% here, like on this conversation, or do I need to have 5 other things scrolling and stimuli and not really be 100% focused on what I'm doing? And I think that's the other side of this, is that people who are really successful are 100% focused on the task that they're doing, and that the whole multitasking thing is like a lie that we're sold, and we think multitasking is like, people have it on their resume, great multitasker. Well, that's actually a bad thing, because we're not actually good at multitasking, and every time we switch from one activity to another, we're actually losing time of productivity had we been really super focused and dialed in. So I think the conversation is the digital detox is just a way for you to step back a little bit, and realize that you're capable of focusing, and that you're capable of taking a time out, and it gives you time to think. And I think success is a lot of like think, create, right? It's not just like do all the time. It's taking steps outside of just doing stuff.
And what impact, and like with me and Ash, we've done it based on our health, obviously constantly looking for things that deal with brain fog, fatigue and stuff like that. And so we look at everything and anything. It doesn't matter what some of the shit we've bought between us is crazy, Ash, isn't it? Like people think we're absolutely nuts, but it's in that pursuit of health, right? What kind of health is that brought round for you? If you found any health benefits from it, or were you doing it for any particular health benefit other than sanity?
No, really doing it for sanity, but I found that I can sit and read a book for like an hour, and I think otherwise it's been very challenging for me to be able to do that, because especially if you're talking about like ebooks and stuff where you're getting like notifications and things like that and trying to read, or like it's allowed me to, which I think results in a healthier overall you, when you can when you can actually focus on the things you say you want to do. I think a lot of it comes down to being who you say you want to be. I think most of us don't want to be the types of people that are addicted to social media or to dopamine hits. But if we're living it all the time, then we're not really living with what we want to be. But no, it's allowed me to, spend more time with my family, focus on my daughter. It's allowed me to sit for, an hour and read a book. It's allowed me to do stuff that normally I wouldn't do, because I constantly have that phone in my hand, and I'm like notifications, or like need to check or need to look. And definitely been like addiction. Again, there's a million positive benefits for me that I get also out of being on my phone. It's part of my business. It's part of interacting with friends. I think right now during COVID, like, it's been really nice to interact with people and be social through social media. Like, I think there's tons of benefits, and I sort of don't blame social media. Like, I think there's good uses to it, and there's bad uses to it, and it's up to us to control kind of how we interact with it.
Balance, yeah.
Balance, yeah. So for me, just taking the exercise of doing it and knowing that I'm going to just do this once a week is just kind of like healthy. Stepping out of it, spending time. I know that day I'm spending time with my family. I'm reading. I'm doing things that I want to do that I would normally probably would not otherwise do if I had that phone in my hand, like constantly.
Cool. Ash, let's bring you in now. You just showed the view. There's many reasons why you're in Portugal or Cyprus or wherever you tend to go when the weather's not so great in the UK. Do you want to elaborate on that?
Yeah, I think kind of totally agree with everything that Laurent was saying. I think that just social media technology, it's super addictive, because as much as we may hate it, it's kind of so integral to kind of the lives that we live, right? It's intertwined with personal relationships, with business. And so the thing is kind of trying to find that balance within the chaos, what works for you. And so the biggest thing that I found that I really wanted to get more productive, I'd say. So that's where it kind of came from initially. I was like, how can I get more out of myself in order to kind of like give more to the business, to the people in the business, because I didn't feel like I was at the standard that I wanted to be at. And so I started traveling the world to kind of with the intent to find out what is the best environment that I like and feel the most productive in. And it shouldn't be a surprise, but actually I was quite surprised that it was somewhere that's very close to like forest, basically forest, nature. It was the best out of everything. I went and lived on beaches. I would live like loads of different places, but forest for me was the best one because I think it's just so powerful. For me, it's like 10 times more powerful than like meditation, you know. It's like I come out of the forest and I just feel so at peace with myself. I just feel more grateful, happy. And also I feel like I've always strive and never arrive is the thing that I would say. But when I come out of nature in general, I just feel I don't need to get anywhere. I'm already there is the kind of feeling that I get. So yeah, that was the kind of the quest, was to find out where's most productive. And so now literally the things that I look for is somewhere that's very close to a forest, ideally that I can literally walk downstairs and go there, like this place, which is just awesome.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah. And then also though, I kind of, the other thing is I want to be within 10-minute drive of the sea, you know, like the ocean, because grounding, which is like barefoot in the ocean, is just one of the best things ever. And especially if it's kind of cold, you get the thermogenesis benefits from having that cold temperature. So having a swim on a weekend, and actually I found that combining the two of those is just a killer combo that enables me to kind of manage, let's say, the detrimental effects of EMFs. Because the other option is we kind of give it up and we just go and live in the forest, but then it's going to be a boring, pretty boring life, right? Like we kind of want to find the balance within. So,
yeah. And in terms of EMFs, I mean, I've got a list of stuff here that we can go through. It's like we talked about earthing. I mean, in my office, as we set up now, there's no Bluetooth. Everything's hardwired. I've got the desk is earthed underneath. Even with the Wi-Fi has one of those shields I bought from the US for like $130. You know, you don't know how well it'll work, but you got that covered. I moved to the country for that reason. I didn't buy a house. I bought a view. Like when I open the double doors of my house, I've got this amazing view that looks over farmland and stuff like that. And we're quite near forests and places like that. And that was another of the reasons for me to move for health reasons, to get out of built up areas, get away from so many masts and stuff. And I mean, a lot of people can say it's quack science, but you think with 5G's coming, my understanding 5G was developed by the military. And it's actually used, or it can be used at a certain frequency for crowd control. Now, if you can control crowds with it, can you imagine what that's going to kind of impact once that's dialed up that it can do to your body? So I'm like, a lot of the stuff I think about and do, I can either go, that's just quack science, or I can just try it, because you never know when you find until you find out. And most of the times you'll test stuff and they simply won't work. But you've bought like bed earthing mats and stuff. Do you want to talk a bit on that, Ash?
Yeah, I spent fortunes on products, to be honest, but I bought I had like grounding bed sheets that I had from there, so I kind of had a couple of those in my lifetime. I use now a Harapad, which is awesome. It's kind of like I'll kind of show it quick.
Yeah,
it's that, which is a pad that sits underneath your laptop, and that shields you from EMFs. And what you can actually do as well is you can buy a device. It's pretty good, called a trimeter. Trimeter is able to measure the electromagnetic frequencies, like the strength of the field that's given off. And so you can see that these products do work, because if you put the Harapad there and then you put it underneath, you can see that it's not sensing anything, and remove the pad and then it comes back in pretty strong. So that's great. I got a Defender Shield is the name of the brand for my phone. This is a game changer. It's like $15. I think Tim Ferriss, I saw one of his podcasts where he was saying about products that changed his life for under $100, but if there was product list under $20 to change my life, it would be this one, because it's just really good. This enables me to spend maybe 30 minutes on my phone instead of what was probably 10 or 15 before, if I'm just holding it directly without any kind of protection at all. So that was massive. in terms of other devices that I've had,
Well, the devices, I've just Healthy House. This is where me and you hired our devices to go around. I think you've done yours at home as well, but Healthy House is like 50 quid. There's 2 different devices that we hired, one for electromagnetic field and one for like the heating system. I can't remember. And like as soon as your phone's out of airplane mode, you can hear it just firing up, like when it goes near the microwave or near the TV, you know?
Yes.
So I'll post that link into the chat there.
And like you said, actually, one of the best things you could do, and I've had the grounding mats, and in 2008, I met David Wolf. I don't know if you know David.
Yeah,
Wolf. In 2008,
that's how I got into it. Yeah,
I met him, and I traveled the country. I traveled the country with him, and a few things that he said, but one is just grounding. He talks about how important it is, but one of the things you could do is just go outside barefoot, right? Like go in your backyard, go in your street, whatever, connecting with the earth. And the other thing that he has said is like everything you ever want is in the forest. He's like, you want food, it's in the forest. You want to have a good time, go swing from a rope in the forest. Like a lot of, you can, there's a lot of benefits obviously to being in nature, getting outside, getting sun every day. Even in New York, a lot of the year is like not so sunny, but every morning I try to get some sun. I try to get outside a little bit to get some nature, even when it's cold or it doesn't seem like it's great weather.
It's a shame because being in New York, it's like being in London for us. Your weather is quite temperamental. I mean, it gets a lot colder in winter for you guys. But if you're down, by the Bay, LA, or wherever, that's such a much nicer climate all year round to live in. I think. If I had a real choice, if I didn't live here, I'd definitely be living. There's this little area in the middle of France, which is less than 300 days a year of rain. But my daughter's, she's only 14 and my wife wants to stay localized. But as soon as she's left school, for me, that's the next move is I want to be able to spend time in climates where I've got the sun on my back all year round and maybe just live between the 2 properties, one around the farmland, and then go by car, say 18 hours travel by car, take the family, pack the dog in there as well, and then spend 3 to 4 months in a warm climate,
Yep. And one thing I wanted to add, so there's I think guy, Andrew Kirby, which is what my friend shared with me, a YouTuber who made this video on the dopamine detox. It's got like some millions of views, and he goes through like a whole series of videos there that if anybody is interested in kind of doing that, he's got a Reddit kind of group also where you can find an accountability partner, and you can even though you're both offline during that time, you're kind of holding each other accountable to do it. And if it's something you want to do, you should check out that video. I think a lot of us want to change, but sometimes we don't know sort of how to do it or what's the way to go about doing it. And the way I kind of see change is like, just like your software, you upgrade your iOS, change is upgrading yourself, right? Like it's upgrading you, and then committing to change and to doing something and then doing it is kind of like your next level version of your own software.
Yeah, I'm going to say some hellos and then I'll throw it back over to you, Ash, in a minute. Hello, Gloria says hello. Kashif is here. Zumba here. Steve is here. He says cool topic. Mark Steer. David is here. Laura. Eric Payne is back. Hope you're well, Eric. Scott Gallagher's here. Michelle Venton says good morning, guys. Good to see you again, Ash. I hope you're keeping well. Victoria is here. Alan is back. Farouk is here. Yao is back. Tiff is... Yeah, Tiff's already said good morning. So, Ash, what have you done? I mean, was it it's about 2-3 years ago? Do you remember you bought a projection screen? You was trying all sorts, didn't you? And it didn't work. Do you want to remind me what that was?
Yeah, I did. So one of the things was I was trying to distance myself from these EMFs, right? So the first thing that I did was I got a HaraPad. That was good, but I mean, if you got it like on your lap or you still got your hands on the keyboard, then you're still getting the exposure, right? So then the second thing was like, okay, well, let's try and cover the like the Wi-Fi box with one of these protective mesh things. Let's get hardwired keyboard, Ethernet cable. Let's get a mini screen. And I did that, and I still felt like, you know what, I feel I'm still feeling irritated. Like I literally, my mood changes when I get in front of a laptop after about 20 minutes. I may be productive, but my mood is never as good when I'm on a laptop as when it is off. And 10 minutes after I finished, I feel much better. But it still wasn't working out with a screen. And I think it was because the screen was bigger. So even though it was a bit further away, it was bigger, so more powerful, more EMFs were being transmitted. And then I had this, it was kind of the idea of getting a projector, right? Because a projector doesn't give off any EMF kind of thing, and you're several feet away. You can have the projector in a different room even or something. So I had one of those and put that, and it was on the wall. So it was there, and I had it. It was just like, it's funny, I'm just working with this, like on the wall at the end of the room with the biggest screen ever. And instead of having a movie, there would just be like, loads of like Amazon related stuff. And I found it I was actually surprised, but I didn't enjoy doing that and didn't find it productive. I think I didn't find it comfortable, and I couldn't get used to it the way that I was working. And the second thing is, I think it went a bit beyond, in my case, because I had a lot of issues with fatigue. And I think it went beyond the EMFs, and it was also the fact that we're concentrating on something so small that's kind of in front of us, like this short kind of like sighted vision, you know what I mean? So rather than, we usually, like before this, we would have been out of the house, just in the wild or whatever, and looking at landscape and into the distance. We're not used to focusing on something so close to us for so many hours of the day. So it's kind of like eye fatigue. And so I think there was that. And then realized that really wasn't the answer for me either. And so then I was like, you know what, I'm going to just actually try to get my body stronger. So I fixed, I would say, my sleep so that I can actually sleep earlier, which makes a huge difference. So my body's stronger. Try to get out into nature every day. Maybe to start my day is the best way. And then at the weekends and every other day, I go and kind of like ground in the sea. And that gives me more reserve so that I can actually handle, I would say, some of the EMS. Because I travel a lot as well. So it's hard to kind of have a fully fledged setup when you travel.
Lewan, talk about what kind of screen tools do you use in terms of blue light and before bed and stuff? Are you using stuff like, there's a paid app called Iris, which I've got here. It's like $30. There is a free one. I can't remember it. Is it Ash? You know what I'm talking about. There's one for the Mac, free app where it changes. Flux. Yeah. Yeah. So we got that. But what kind of things do you use, Lewan, in terms of winding down in the evening and stuff?
Yeah. Well, the first thing is I have blue light blocking glasses. I would say that's kind of like the biggest tool that I have. I'm trying to get more into following like this rule of unwinding down. First of all, I've been going to sleep earlier. So kind of like Ashley said, going to sleep. My goal is, 10:30, kind of like latest to be sleeping at night, which is way different than what I've done in the past. And waking up earlier too. So like during the week, not during the weekends, but during the week, like waking up before 6 a.m. Has been really helpful. So the blue light blocking glasses have helped, but then I'm trying to follow this rule of 3-2-1. Okay, before bed, which is 3 hours before bed, no food. 2 hours before bed, no work. 1 hour before bed, like no real phone stuff, social media or phone stuff. The only thing I do is I'll go to bed, I'll have my phone turned around, I'll listen to podcasts or something. So I listen to audio, but I'm trying more and more to have less of that light in my eyes right before I go to bed, which is a change from literally going to bed scrolling on the phone. So it's not, I would say I don't have it down perfectly yet. It's not easy for me. But that's kind of what I'm trying to do. And also wake up earlier in the morning and, just not be on my phone as much. I also find there's a certain law. I don't know the name of it, but it's almost like whatever time you give to a certain act or to do it, you're going to fill up that time. Right. So I'm as productive if I stop working 2 hours before bed as if I work right until bed, because we just fill up the time with stuff. So I find if you like even this, 24-hour period of like detox, not working or whatever, still able to be productive and get all my stuff done because it just fits into the time window that I give it instead of, I think some people might have, when they listen to this, I'd posted something about digital detox before, and somebody said, well, you know, I have to be online all the time to answer these things for my team or ba. Those are excuses. Because, you know, when you're on that flight to China and you don't have internet for 16 hours, somehow you're able to manage, right? So all that stuff is just kind of your brain's resistance to change.
When you're plugged in. Yeah. I've got a question here from Tiff regarding the glasses. What is the blue light blocking glasses do you guys recommend? I've tried some but was not pleased.
I use Swannies. It's kind of like a known brand. They're a little bit more expensive, but it's somewhat more, to me, I think, a reliable brand. But there's plenty of ones, you know, on Amazon or online that you can go buy. I think maybe Tim Ferriss also recommended Swannies.
Ash, what ones do you use?
I use True Dark at the minute. I've never heard of Swannies, but I'm sure if Tim Ferriss has recommended them, they're good.
Yeah. So can you explain to the audience the difference between using something like Iris as a blocker rather than a pair of glasses, which is something you have to wear? Is there any real difference?
I don't really know that app, but essentially, you know, the glasses and probably what the app does, and then I'll give you some other things that I do actually that I've been doing for a while. But you know, I guess the glasses block out that blue light, which is from your devices, which is that bright light. Which essentially the goal of it and the point of it is that your mind, when your mind is tricked to thinking it's like full on daylight time, right? And to get yourself really going to sleep the proper way, it's better that your mind see that it's getting dark out and like starts to unwind, and that blue light makes your brain think it's like fully awake and time to be up, and so it's harder to unwind. But some of the other things I do is like generally the brightness on my phone is like almost all the way down.
Yes. Same, yeah.
You know, and I've had that for a long time. Also, I have Do Not Disturb on that goes on every night from my phone from a certain time. Only my favorites, I think, if they call through, the phone will get through. So that's like in emergencies, right? I have family where if they dialed through, like the call would go through. So I do that. And then I've, you know, probably like at the beginning of this year, I turned off a lot of the notifications that I have, from, you know, pop-up notifications to even like my Facebook, Instagram, my messengers, all only badge notifications. So if I'm in one app, I don't get interrupted with these notifications like popping up. And I see the little numbers next to stuff. So like I know if I have a message. But even that's good once in a while to play with, just like, well, you know, one morning a couple weeks ago, I was like super productive. And then I went and I was like, yeah, you know what? I turned on Do Not Disturb in the morning and I forgot to shut it off. And I was like, wow, it's so productive because I didn't get interrupted. And so having those like 2-3 hour blocks in your day of just working and not switching tasks from thing to thing, I think is super important to like actually getting stuff done.
The other thing that you can do, people don't realize how easy it is as long as you haven't got to keep putting it back into the first screen folder, you just delete the apps. And if you've got LastPass, to reinstall those apps takes 20 seconds, 30 seconds. So that's Facebook, Messenger, and say Insta. Less than a minute, you're back live on those again. But you know, it's that habit of keeping looking there. Like when you've deleted them, you go, oh yeah, they're not there. And then it doesn't bother you so much. So there's a way of doing reduction there. Delete the apps and re-engage them a day later or whatever, you know?
The other thing I've done on my phone is, on the iPhone at least, under your accessibility settings, you can actually change your phone from color to grayscale. Okay, your whole phone becomes black and white, and it's so not appealing to like look at your phone. It makes it really like it's really deterrent for you to like go in your phone and your apps. And you know, like I said, for me, you know, Facebook and this medium is super important. Obviously, like you and I, we put out content, like, you know, it's a super important medium. It's just using the medium to your advantage, not to be taken advantage of by the medium. We're not letting it sort of consume your whole life. You know?
That's why they introduced the Friday and Saturday, because regardless, if I carry on 7 days a week, there is no break. Because even if I've contacted guests and the show's got to go live, everything's you're still checking in. So as of next week, we had to move because of the Blackout Tuesday, we moved that show to the Friday and then took Saturday off. But as of next week, I want to take Friday and Saturday off completely, delete all the apps on the phone, reduce down and take it from there. But to bring Ash, go on, sorry,
I'll tell you what made it easier for me and how I started this. So my friend sent me this digital detox. And then a Jewish holiday was coming up last week. That was Thursday night, Friday, Saturday. Now I grew up, my parents are religious, okay, Jewish, and I grew up that way. And according to, you know, sort of if you're religious and you're Jewish, you're not going to use any electronics or like turn the lights on or do any of that stuff on the holiday. And so I really needed this digital detox. And so I said to my wife, like, let's just observe the holiday, right? Because like putting in place these more strict rules actually made it easier for me not to go to my phone. And so that's what I did. So last weekend, Thursday night, Friday until Saturday night, just put my phone away, and I just knew I wasn't going to touch it. And I did the same thing this weekend. It's like Sabbath, and I just did the same thing. I just said let's just observe it. And none of us were on our devices. My daughter not on her devices. My wife not on her devices. Like everyone just doing it together. And it turned out to be, you know, the thing that I rejected, you know, growing up rebelling against my whole life. Kind of like turns out to be this really nice thing to spend family time together, you know. So it's funny to go back to that, but actually placing the stricter rule for me made it easier for me to actually do, because I just knew like this is the rule, I'm not touching my phone. And made it easier than for you to say, hey, I'm just not touching my laptop for a few hours, but like I'm going to go back to it.
Indeed. Ash, for someone, you've had to make adjustments due to health, right? So you know your target this year is to hit 100 million. You've got fatigue issues. I'm sure it's got better over time. But what have you done now in terms of, you know, we can work hard or we can work smart. We've got a team, etc. And I'm learning more and more, just offload as much as I can to the team and reduce my time. So I'm probably spending physical work time in front of the computer the last 2 weeks, 2 hours a day, roughly. And then if I'm doing the show, this isn't really work. We're just communicating. It's not like I've got my heads in spreadsheets and stuff like that. What are you doing now? I mean, how is your day partitioned up, bearing in mind taking in your health and how to manage a business of your size?
Yes. Okay. Before I get to that, just quickly on the previous points. I know you were talking about, maybe I can try and give a bit of gold to the audience, things that were helpful for me. I think you asked the question about whether it's the glasses or whether it's the flux. I think the answer is that if you wear the glasses, it protects your eyes. But if you have flux, then it protects your face, because blue light, if it hits your face, it hits the skin, it suppresses melatonin, which then suppresses deep sleep. So I would say like flux is better. But the thing the glasses does, because the eyes are most sensitive, is it means that if you look around, if you have like lights which are basically you don't have red lights in your house, then you're going to get the blue light from those. So I definitely recommend for people to have red lights in the evening, red bulbs. So the easiest way to do it is just to have your normal lights if you like them, but then have red bulbs. So in the evening when sun sets, turn the bulbs on, switch the lights off, and then you're good to go. In terms of technology, I think all the stuff that you guys said were great. I think turn off your notifications for sure. If it's getting extreme, just delete the apps altogether. It's a bit like getting the cookies out of the kitchen, right? If you kind of got that temptation, just remove it completely, change the environment. And there's also another app, because one of the things as well is we all know this stuff, but I think honestly, it's pretty difficult when you're executing at 100%. You get to the end of a day, you've just crushed it 10 hours, and then you're like exhausted. You don't have the willpower, the actual glycogen to resist and keep those things that you know you shouldn't be doing, right? So there's actually an app which I can't remember the name of it. I was looking to try and get it, but I haven't got it here. You can tell I haven't used it in a few months. And for that one, what I was doing is you put it on and it actually powers off your phone, so you can't even use it for like whatever time you put. So I used to do it for 4 hours, and I'd always put it on at like say 5 p.m. 6 p.m. Like when I left the office, I would put it on, and I'd be like, damn, I get back, and I was so pissed that that I'd like done it, because I couldn't get on. All I wanted to do was mong out on social media. But it was great. That was like some of the best sleep that I had, and should probably get back to that, to be honest. But anyway, coming back to the question that you had about what are the things that have done?
With you over the time, you've had to make adjustments. You have a large company to manage. There's a lot of stress involved. I mean, when I talk to you behind the scenes, some of the stuff you tell me what you have to deal with, the fighting fires, etc., is crazy on that level. Because as you go up, you go through levels, right? The team gets bigger, and there's more dramas, that other stuff going on behind the scenes. But how do you manage to keep executing at that scale, aiming for 250 million, yet you need to be sitting by a forest? Because that doesn't sit, does it? You have to come up with smart ways to work this.
Yeah, it's definitely not your normal. I think, what I would say is that you have to leverage yourself. That's the key. And you can only do that if you get very good people under you.
Yeah.
So what does that mean? That means that we need to get very good at hiring. So you need to be learning. I think every CEO should be able to really understand the hiring process and get good at that. You need to be able to build systems in the business as well, or hire the people that can build the systems. And then you need to have things like SOPs. So as new people are coming in and out, you've got those ready to go, processes in place. But I think it comes down to that. So I'd say now what I'm doing most of the time, probably I spend like a quarter of my week, I would say, it's going to be more like strategizing on things. So thinking on bigger topics like risk diversification could be one of them. And I'm trying to think of a solution for that. Or it could be how can we take X part of the business to the next level, or what is the next kind of transition we should be making in terms of product lines, things like that. Some of the bigger questions, or should we start looking into acquisitions, or should EU happen? Those kind of bigger topics. But I would say that I spend a lot of time with the leaders in the team. And kind of making sure that I'm able to get what I've got here, like out there to them, and also kind of absorb as much as I can from them, because some of those guys are good and have a lot of experience. So that's what I would say. Yeah, spend.
But how much in time per day do you give up of your day to execute on the business?
I'm still working a lot, to be honest. But I would say my breakdown of the day would be like 25%. So let's just say 8 hours a day. At the minute, and then 2 hours of that's going to be on bigger picture stuff where it's just me. Maybe I'll go and sit in the forest with a pen and paper. I love doing that. You come back with new ideas and you feel amazing too. 25% is going to be like with the team. So it's going to be training, doing one-on-ones, catching up and seeing how things are progressing, setting priorities for the team, and just trying to like lead and coach where possible. And then I would say that the other, I probably got the rest of it, the 50% is going to be things that I need to do in terms of, maybe it's taking ad hoc calls, like we're going to do a new inventory management software and I'm going to be involved in that for a couple of weeks. Or for example, like the team, I'm getting a lot of tags in Slack. So I'll spend maybe an hour and a half in Slack every day, kind of getting back and responses. Still got my finger on the pulse when it comes to the business. So I'm not able to kind of escape from it completely at the minute. But I think that maybe in a year's time, if you ask me that question, I think it would be probably a lot different to what it is now. But it was very different now than what it was 2 years ago. 2 years ago, it was literally like wake up and I'm doing pretty much, I could be doing anything from PPC, setting up a listing myself or anything like that 2 years ago. So changes.
Yeah. Well, the reason I ask that is because we're trying to get into this age of digital detox and take any excuses away. Like I have excuses, you can have excuses, Leran can have excuses. But ultimately, are we designed to sit in front of a computer 10 to 12 hours a day? Probably not. I mean, there's arguments out there that our health is deteriorating because of COVID-19, lack of vitamin D and our actions. You know, I in my old house, I've got on my, on the health monitor, I'm doing like 300 or 400 steps a day. Obviously, you put the phone down in the office and you go to the bathroom, etc. And you're going to miss out some, but you should be doing 10,000 steps a day. Do you see what I mean? So this culture that we have as Amazon sellers, I mean, 90% of Amazon sellers sit in their room or their office or wherever they are in isolation in most of the time, working long hours in front of a computer, right or wrong?
Yeah, true. To work a lot of hours, 7 days a week, probably most of them.
Exactly. But then what we've got to get to is like, we can't maintain that. At some point it has to give. And I think part of my health issues is been working from home since 2012. So I might go to, Evan Brand and pay $300, $375 a session and get my supplements and all that kind of stuff. But I need to change my lifestyle. I need to do more of what you're doing in the forest. I do that, but I don't believe I'm doing enough, and I don't think we all do enough.
I think it comes down to a few things. You've got to be, everyone has different limits as well. I think it's Gary Vee that says about this, but everyone has a different size bucket. But think about a bucket as your container that you can have stress that builds up. So everyone's different. So I see maybe if we're saying about maybe us three are maybe in a similar bucket, right? We're a bit more sensitive than the average person. And so we have to take more countermeasures to try and balance that. Some people, they could totally get away with it. They don't feel it. Some people can go out drinking and they just wake up the next day and feel fine. Like for me, it would knock me for 6. So I don't really drink, very, very rare. But I think it comes down to your personal situation and building up an awareness around that, and then taking the action needed, and just being really honest with what you actually want out of life, and whether you're kind of willing to pay the price, I guess, to get it. Because if you want to, let's say with me, if my goal was 250 million, and that was the big goal, then I couldn't say, well, you know what, all my family and I've got friends in London, so I want to stay there. And even though it kind of sucks from a health level, I just kind of want that didn't really work. You know, it's like, okay, I'm willing to literally travel to a new country and kind of do it alone if I have to, because I know that the benefits from the environment I'm in are going to outweigh and help me to get to the goal. But then that's not for everyone. Most people would say, no, I'd rather stay. I don't care about getting to 250 million. Just give me a few thousand a month for passive income, selling an Amazon business, and give me my friends and family, and that's where they're at, and that's totally fine too, right? So I think it's kind of, what do you want? And then have a look at the situation you're in and see whether you're getting closer to your goal or not. And if you're not, then it requires kind of the honest conversation with yourself and saying, okay, there's maybe a few changes I need to make here, and am I prepared to do it?
Yeah, makes sense. Levan, do you want to interject here, mate?
Yeah, well, the first thing is, I obviously agree with everything Ashley's saying, but I think also like our productivity has not necessarily gotten any better.
No.
Given all the tools, all the technology, like all the stuff we have, like productivity is not actually, I think, any better as a result. So you need to kind of question why that is. We're actually much more distracted, I think, than ever before, as opposed to being focused. And then the other thing, I think like Ashley was alluding to, you need to have an honest conversation with yourself on like, what do you want? In a lot of ways, outside of this, just like digital detox, what do you want and what price are you willing to pay? And I think also a lot of us go in with this mindset of do, have, be, right? Like, which is I'm going to do the work, I'm going to have money, I'm going to be rich, right? Or do, have, be, but that you may have heard this before, we're not human doings, we're human beings, right? And the first thing you should really think about is the exact opposite. It's be, do, have, right? Who am I going to be? Who am I going to become? And then, so if I want to be great, then I should ask myself, like, what do great people do? And then I'll end up having what great people have. But I think it's like flipping the script on asking yourself, what do you actually want? And then who do you need to become along the way in order to have those things? I'll be successful when I hit this number. Like Ashley, I would assume, doesn't think of himself as I'll only be successful when I hit 250 million. He already thinks of himself as successful. And because he already thinks of himself as successful, he takes the actions every day in order to have the 250 million in sales, right? And I think a lot of us need to flip the script on how we think about this, and think about who is the type of person that I need to become in order to have that. Do I need to become the type of person that doesn't drink every night so I could wake up the next day like focused? Do I need to be the type of person that gets off my phone, that stops scrolling on social media at night? Do I need to be the type of person that's not addicted to my phone and takes a digital detox? Like, who's the person that I need to become in order to have and do? So my advice would be like, flip the script from what's the typical, somebody asks you, what do you do, right? Is kind of like the first question they ask you when they meet you, and based on that, they've already made their determination about who you are, when it's kind of should be the exact opposite. It's who's the person you're trying to become along the journey.
Yeah, I totally agree. Maybe I'd love to give an example as well. I'd say 2 years ago, because I was really focused on executing and doing, and it got to the point where then I couldn't do enough, right? You're working kind of 7 days a week, and you need to kind of have a team that supports you. But I would say I wouldn't regulate my body clock. So I wasn't able to actually have morning meetings with my team. And it got so bad that I couldn't even give people a time that I could meet them the next day, because I had no idea how long it was going to take me to fall asleep. And so and also when I got on calls, I just noticed that I was short with people, like I was irritated, and that irritation was coming out on calls that I had with them. And I kind of just looked at that and I thought, I kind of say I want this goal, but if I want to get that goal, like, who do I need to become, right? And you need to become the person that's a good leader, that's able to communicate effectively, and you have to be reliable, you have to be consistent. And I was like, so yeah, I mean, I don't like going to bed early. I'm a nighttime person, right? Like I always used to get to bed at like 2, 3, 4 in the morning up until like late 20s. So that's me. That's like the best kind of time. But I was like, okay, but the only thing that I would hate more than that is not getting to the goal, or not not becoming the person I want to be to get there, you know? So then you make changes. And still to this day, I work in the mornings, and it's my least productive time. 8 until 10 a.m. is kind of my worst. So I kind of, everyone says about, you know, starting the day, do the one thing when you're like your energy is highest, you've just come fresh out of a sleep. And it makes total sense. But it just doesn't work that way for me. Like my chronotype.
Well, isn't there is it a wolf and something else? There's two different ways. Like people say you should get up early in the morning, but you're not built that way. Some people excel at night. You know, people work in recording studios and get a vibe. You know.
Yes, chronotype.
Is that just in your head, or is that real? Right? Like, do you
There's
actually?
some science behind it. Can't remember what it is, but one's a wolf and one's something else, isn't it? Where it's
Lion's the morning, like the morning person that do really well in the morning, and then they tire at the end and they feel tired. What it is they're supposed to have people that have this internal circadian rhythm. So lions usually have a 23-hour circadian rhythm. So it means they get to the end of the day quite tired. They're really drawn into a sleep, and then they fall asleep and wake up kind of fresh, and it works that way. Whereas the wolf is someone that actually feels better in the evening, and their clock tends to run a bit over. So it's 24 and a half, 25-hour clocks that they have. So they struggle to kind of like wind down and fall asleep at the end of the day, because that's kind of like, it's like a steam train. I'm like a steam train. I start the day off slow, but I pick up speed, and by like 8, 9 p.m., like unless I get into my wind down routine, I'm flying. You know, like the last thing I want to do is stop. But I realize that it's not sustainable to do that. So you have to kind of get into a routine. But yeah, so for me, it's planning your energy based on yourself and knowing yourself, having a good look and saying, okay, when is my most productive times? So I will strategize maybe in the morning, and I wake up slowly, and I'll maybe do some replies. And then when my energy is highest, that's when you want to focus on like deep work, right? Where you really need your brain power to execute on things. And then Ty Lopez talks about this as well, about managing your energy, but also he says in the afternoons that he does meetings, because he's already done, for him, he's a morning person. So he does all his hard work in the morning, and then he's a little bit burnt out, let's say in the afternoon, or he's not got the same concentration, but he'll do meetings because that's a bit easier. And so that works for him. So it's just, I think there's no one set way, and it's just about finding what works best for you. But it's interesting.
Matt Parker's got a question for you, Ash. Hi guys, question to Ashley. Do you think 250 million will cost you your work-life balance? Is it worth it? I hear people talking about 7, 8-figure goals, but at what cost? Sometimes I feel you end up paying for the work in more than just monetary value. What's the point in the 8-figure business with little return on investment at the expense of life? For me, money is universal to me, but this is priceless. Time is priceless. And I've learned this the hard way. That's a good question. What's your take on that, mate?
Yeah, I think, like I said, I think everyone's totally different with what they want to get to and why. I really like being at the cutting edge of things. And I like these like moonshot goals, because that brings the best out of me. That excites me. But what I would also say as well is I didn't start there. So I didn't start, actually, when I started doing Amazon, my goal was to do 50 grand a month. So that was the goal. So, but I'm really a big fan of like stretched goals. And I know Grant Cardone talks about 10X kind of thing, but you kind of get more out of yourself. And I think that, if the last thing you want to do at the end of the day is have a life where all you do is work for the whole life. And at the end of it, you're like, you're unfulfilled, you're burnt out, you're tired, you've got health issues. So you definitely don't want to do that. My belief is I can get to the 250. I was overly optimistic. I thought I was going to be there, like say this year before. And I think, but I honestly think I'm going to get there in the next sort of 3 or 4 years. And I'm 32 now. So for me, like I like it. And I balance it with living in nature. I'm traveling to different countries. So I'm still experiencing the world and doing those things. I work less now than I did 2 years ago. And yet the business is 7 times the size. So I don't, I basically, I hear what the question is saying, but I think that you don't have to work more in order to get there. And it's not, you don't have to set a goal that's that big. But it's exciting. I like it. I like working, I would say. I like hustling, and
it's about, so basically it comes down to, it's like you said, I remember you showing me the org chart 2 years ago when we had a meet up with some of the other guys. But teams make a massive difference. If I hadn't had a team working on the recent summit and I was feeling a bit burnt out, a bit of brain fog, they just got on with it. They took care of it. Levan, can you honestly say with your team is like they've got your back. You can walk away and know that the building's not blowing up and it's all taken care of.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, having one of the things Ashley said was like, you need systems, and if not, you need to hire people who are good at building systems. And I would say I'm much more marketing and creativity and than, let's say, systems. But I have a really good person on my team who's awesome at systems. And so having that in place and having systems and having really good people on your team makes a huge difference. Super important if you want to grow. I mean, you could be a one-man show and you can have freelancers and things like that. But, if you really want to grow, then you need a more structured team and having some really good people who also have your back for sure.
Yeah. Well, it comes back into this. If you want a digital detox, if you want to get more out of your life, then you have to build a team, won't you? If you want both, if you want to have a successful business and you want to add that break when needed and get that balance, then you're going to have to put together a good team.
But the thing is that even if you're a one-man show business, there shouldn't be anything that's so burning that you need to have your phone attached or your laptop attached to your hip for a 24-hour period of time. If there's something massively wrong, that your business is set up that way, right? Like you should have again, even as a one-man person, if you have customer service emails, well, 24 hours isn't going to be the be all end all of not responding, or you should have an auto responder saying, I'm gonna, get back to you, or whatever it is. There shouldn't be anything burning. Like, I'm not saying, go take 14 days and go into become a monk for 14 days. Although that should be something at some point you should be able to do also if you have a good business and systems and want to do that. And by the way, good book called Living with the Monks by Jesse Itzler. If you want to read about him taking 15 days from his life and going to live with monks, literally being off a digital detox for 15 days. But even as a solo person, you should be able to take 24 hours to. I think
you guilt yourself, don't you? Because you're starting your business. You want to make sure that you're focused, and you're always told to hustle hard and get there and deal with like setbacks and things like that. And I think sometimes you get guilty in your own mind, saying like, "Am I doing enough?"
But what you don't realize is that when you take a step back, it'll make you better in your business.
Yeah, right? But the time you don't realize that until you force yourself to do it, or you crash.
When Ashley's talking about when you go with a pen and paper and you're just going to write for a few hours during that time, it'll, and you ask yourself, like, I think the best answers and solutions come from asking good questions. And exactly what Ashley was saying is his, maybe without even realizing, is his thought process. Well, how can I make this part of my business better? How can I, should we do this? Should we do that? He's all asking questions, right? And then thinking and writing down what those possible solutions are. Though, taking that 2 or 3 hour time period is going to be better for your business than you being constantly like on. And when you're generally, most of us, I feel like when we're on our phone or we're on digital, we're a lot in reactive mode, right? Like we're just like, fighting fires or just responding to stuff instead of being more actively planning and working on the things we know we should be working on. So you get all that benefit when you take some time out to write, to think, to think about what you want to focus on and what you want out of your business and life.
Yeah. And if you notice, going back to that point earlier on where you reduce the screen light down as low as possible, by 8 p.m., when you're tired because you can't read it. Have you noticed that?
Yep. Yeah.
Sorry, Ash, go on. You can say something.
I was going to add to that, just on top of what Ron was saying about, I think the questions is really key. And so I think, and also like beliefs, right? So I'm a big fan of like Tony Robbins, studied a lot of his work, been to seminars and things. But I think that, all of us, we have like limiting beliefs, right? And so one of them, which maybe comes out in that about, like needing, it's like, if I want to create a business which is 8 figures, I need to work 100 hours a week, for example, and because a lot of us, when we start out, we have no capital, we have no experience, we have limited skills, we have no network. And so it's very difficult. And the only thing that we can do to make up for that is put time in, right? We just work our asses off and we kind of get better. But I think I think that there's a way that you're able to actually grow like 5 times faster than what you did initially by doing less. And so it's kind of the question is how can I do that and still enjoy my life at the same time in a way that I won't look back and regret it? Or if it's I'm just going to hustle all out 100%, how long am I willing to do that for as a short time, like plan to get me to another stage of life? Because I think sometimes there's different stages we go through right in life as well.
Yeah, makes sense. You got Matt's come back and says, if you're doing that, Ashley, good on you. Amazing, mate. Keep that balance. Matt Parker also says, thanks, Liran. You've literally answered the question in my head today about freelancers versus in-house. We're coming up to the hour. Any final things you'd like to add to the audience? Or any feedback? Time you, Ash, or Liran.
I'll just add one thing. One of the things that Ashley said was about asking questions, and I think one of the things that you could do is, we've often heard the phrase act as if, right? Act as if, like, if you had the idea that having an 8-figure business only requires 100 hours, well, you can instantly change your belief that having an 8-figure business can require 50 hours or 40 hours, and then you could start acting as if, right? Or acting, you can flip things in your mind to act as if maybe you've always thought, I'm not a good leader in my business, or I'm not good at hiring people. Like, your beliefs are going to drive your actions, right? So acting as if, so change it. So think that I am a really good leader, or I am really good. And then if you start to think or act like you are, you're going to take the steps. And then from there, it's about doing those things consistently, where you're going to take something from your conscious mind to your subconscious, right? Once you do something over and over and over again, it becomes a habit. And a habit is essentially taking something from your conscious mind to your subconscious, where it now happens automatically, right? Like, it's going to be hard that first time to put away your phone at 7 o'clock at night, 2 hours before bed, or it's going to be hard. But once you do that 4, 5, 6, 20, 30 times in a row, it's going to become a habit, and it's going to become super easy. Same thing like waking up early, or any of these limiting beliefs that you have in your head. Start acting as if, stay consistent with it. And then if you could push yourself, knowing that the first 10 days of anything is like the hardest part to incorporate. And if you can get over that hump, it becomes easier. Yeah. Then you can turn something from what was difficult into a habit of being in your subconscious.
What I say about addiction, right? If you can do something or refrain from doing something for 7 days, and then you feel like an urge to do it, you can step away from yourself and observe that friction, or wherever it may be. But if you don't get that, then you're not addicted. So it's another way to find out if you've got an addiction. And then obviously your withdrawals of whatever that addiction, dopamine, it could be food, sugar, whatever, coffee. Yeah. You will know, because that 7-day period will be able to tell you yes or no. Yeah. Ash, would you like to add anything before we go?
I think one thing I would say is I see a lot of people get really defeated when they kind of set this big goal or this big change, and then it doesn't happen, and then they feel like this sense of failure, and then they kind of give up. I think one of the things that was really, I had the same thing as well for a lot of things that I would try when I was younger. The big thing, I learned this from someone else, they talked about like micro changes. So rather than trying to make this huge change where like all of a sudden you're a guy that goes to bed at 3, you go to bed at 3 a.m., right? And then you want to be the guy that goes to bed at 9 p.m. It's like, there's just like, get there in stages. Why don't you take it back from 3 to 2? Why don't you take that back from 2 to 1? From, like over the course of like days, weeks, months, it's going to come down. But if you set the goal too big, the change initially, then I think you're going to fail. So it's like, if I started and my goal was to do 250 million, I would have been like, what are you talking about? Like, it's never going to happen. Like, it's just beyond feasibility, and it's demotivating, to do it. So I think making, micro changes, in my opinion, is kind of the way to kind of like succeed at making changes, because change is hard, right? Is what I would say. And then just trying to think if there's anything else that I had. Nothing coming to mind.
And then it's good old fashioned discipline as well, isn't it?
Yeah, discipline. What do you? How much do you want it? I gave up TVs. I gave up going to bed late. I gave up drinking. I gave up, doing maybe, I don't know, eating crappy food, takeaways as much. So all those kind of things. And they're all really tough to do at the time. I gave up bread because I don't have gluten now. And so what things are you willing to do to get there? And it's okay if you're not, but just realize that you're not.
Yeah, I think though, there's some sort of confusion, or I wouldn't say necessarily discipline, because I think discipline, like Ashley said before, like discipline is hard to fight when you're at 10 o'clock at night and you've had all your willpower and you just can't be disciplined anymore. I don't think it really comes down at the end of the day to discipline. I think it comes down to reasons, right? Like, what are the reasons why I'm going to bed at 10 o'clock? Is because being super sharp tomorrow morning, or being able to commit to a 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock meeting and make that meeting is more important to me than staying up till 1 a.m. right? And if your reasons are stronger, then it's going to be much easier to be disciplined or have that willpower, because willpower, like you said, only lasts for a certain amount.
But yeah, am I missing something here? Because you're talking, one is willpower and one is discipline. Yeah. So are they interchangeable? Because obviously you add willpower to certain things. Like if you drink alcohol, then you'll release the barriers are dropping. Therefore, you're not going to be as disciplined. You might eat that food after the junk food, etc.
Yeah.
But willpower and discipline, I see what you're saying but can you put both of them together? Because discipline could be the difference between people that live for the weekend and have an empty bank account every week, to those that stay home and don't go out drinking every weekend and don't buy the big car and drive a modest car. That's discipline.
And the only way to get that or to be disciplined like that is to have super strong reasons and goals and vision. Yeah. And if you have that, you don't need to have this, like, to me, discipline is like, it's like a battle, right? Or it's super hard to do, but actually it can be super easy to do when
it's the way you look at it.
Yeah, it's the way you look at it. It can be super easy when your reason is like super strong and you really want something. You don't need to be disciplined, because like you have this, like, you're so focused on a particular goal that you don't need to be disciplined to actually do it. Because to me, discipline is like something I'm fighting up against, and I don't need to be super disciplined if my reasons are really strong for going after something or wanting something. So I don't know. To me, discipline is like, I don't want to have to be disciplined. I just want to have strong reasons to do something, and then the discipline comes with that.
Yeah, makes sense. Okay, let's wrap here. We'll be back here 4 p.m. BST tomorrow. Liran, what's the best way that people can reach you?
Facebook, Liran Hirschkorn.
Ash, if you don't mind, do you adverse to people reaching out to you? I know you're busy, but can
Facebook,
they reach you? Facebook as well.
I got a question over the stuff that we were talking about. Yeah, can reach out, get back to you.
Excellent, cool. Right, I'll be back here 4 p.m. BST tomorrow. Thank you. Stay home, stay safe, take care of your family. Much love. I'll speak to you soon. Bye.
Cool. Thanks, Danny. Nice to meet you, Lauren.
Thank you. You too.